Sorry, I'm having so many technical difficulties today. So my phone isn't able to hold as much as I originally thought it was able to hold. So I'm gonna have to take some time tonight to really go through it, kind of gut it a little bit so that way I'm not really making these choppy videos like I am today. I also realized that when I was recording this, and actually happened twice already, where two times I've had videos that I recorded, realized that they actually didn't record. My phone, just kind of started making some mistakes and it wasn't at capacity enough to be able to record those videos. So I'm going to be recording this and I'm going to do as much as I can to really get through numbers 11 through 15. I do apologize for the technical difficulties and I'm hoping by tomorrow everything is, in order. So what I was doing earlier was I was really explaining how to answer number 11, where it says name an obtuse angle. So I'm going to actually come up here because I want to talk about how we are able to label angles. Because before, remember, I'm actually going to come over here first. I apologize. That when we're labeling an angle, we can label it a few different ways. So we can label it like angle P, Q, and R because here's point P, here's point Q, here's point R. Or we can label it just point Q because there's a point in the middle where the two lines meet. And I know that angles are created when there are two lines that meet. This is a point where they meet. This is point Q. So I could label this point Q. And that's also very easy over here because we could label this angle angle U, because all I have is one angle that's formed when these two lines meet. So line T and U, line U and W, this is where they meet. So this would be angle U. This could be angle W. This could be angle V. This could be angle T. All of these points only have one angle really that we can measure. Now, when we come down here, it's a little more difficult. And I made these drawings before when I made a different video. I didn't save, sadly. But we can't just label any of these angles angle B, because I know that we have point B, and point B is where two lines meet. But notice, because these lines extend and they continue, unlike the lines up here that just really are just simple line segments and they all stop, because we have lines here that continue, point B does not just represent one angle anymore. Now it represents about four, because when these lines meet and they all continue, an angle is formed here, the angle is formed here, an angle is formed here, and an angle is formed here. So if you label this angle B, they're going to say, someone grading your test or looking at your work is going to say, well, which angle are you talking about? There's four that are actually created here. So we're talking about an obtuse angle. I know that my angle is going to be bigger than 90 degrees. So I want to keep that in mind. I'm looking over here and I know that I already have this angle right here. This is a 90-degree angle because I see the little square in the corner drawn for me, and that always lets me know, oh, there's a right angle. So if I had to label a right angle, I could come over here and I could say, okay, this will be angle P, R, and C. Because remember, I can't just do angle R anymore because there are about four angles right here that are made because point R is here. So I would have to specifically label what two lines are meeting to create this angle. And it would be line P and line C. So it would be P angle, right angle P, R, and C if I was labeling a right angle. I'm going to come over here and see which one of these angles represents an obtuse angle, or angles that have lines farther apart, and that is bigger than 90 degrees. And I'm looking at angle 1 right here. And I labeled them in numbers just so I'm not getting too confusing when I'm talking about what angles they are. I don't want to just point and then you get confused. So I'm looking at angle number 1 right here. And this looks pretty small. It doesn't really look like 90 degrees, so I'm not going to think about that. Angle 3, same thing. These lines look pretty close together. This angle looks really small. I don't really think that's 90 degrees. But I'm looking at angle 2 and angle 4. These both look really, really big. These lines are pretty far apart. So I'm going to say that this will be an obtuse angle. So I'm going to actually choose number 2. This is going to be my obtuse angle. So I'm going to come over here. I know I'm writing obtuse. I apologize. My phone's starting to die a little bit, so it's on the charger right now. So I'm writing obtuse angle. And now I'm going to see, I can't just label it angle B anymore. If I'm talking about angle number 2, well, What two lines are really coming together to form angle B? And I see point A for line A, and then I see point K for line K. So the way I would label this would be obtuse angle A, B, and K. So let me come over here. Obtuse angle A, B, K. Checks out in my book. Great. Moving on to, move this guy a little closer. Moving on to number 12. Okay, I'm going to take this guy off the charger for just a moment. It'll be fine. Okay, so looking at number 12 says name a line. And I know that a line, on both ends, there have to be arrows. So I'm going to come over here and see, label a line. And when I'm labeling a line, I'm looking for 2 points that are on the same line, and both points must be right next to an arrow. So for example, I couldn't say that B and K form a line because point K is right next to an arrow, point B is not. But I do see that point J is right next to an arrow. So I could label that as a line. Line J, K. They're both on the same line. They both have 2 points that are right next to arrows. So that's going to be my answer. So I'm going to come over here. This would be, this would be line J, K. Just like that. And that's where I'm getting that from, right here. Moving on to 13, name a line segment. That means I need to find 2 points that are not right next to an arrow. So I couldn't say line, for example, I could not say line A and then maybe C, because they are on the same line. There are 2 points, but they're right next to arrows. So I couldn't really call them endpoints. But I could label, if I look closer, I could label line point B and R, because those are 2 points that are not next to arrows. Point R is not next to an arrow, and point B is not next to an arrow. So I think that's going to be the line segment that I choose. Again, I could not do R and P because R is next to, point R is not next to an arrow, but point P is. So really the only line segment in this entire figure would be line segment B and R. I'm going to write that for myself for number 13. Line B and R. Good. Okay, going right down to number 14. Again, I appreciate your patience. I know I need to really go over my technological abilities during this time. So, number 14, name a right angle. Well, I know I'm going to see a right angle once I see a perfect square, perfect corner of a square, and there's going to be a tiny little box in the middle of that angle. And then if I go around, I actually remember I saw a right angle. It was right here. But I can't label this point R because I remember that there are 4 angles that are actually formed because point R is there. So I need to think about what 2 lines are really meeting in order to create this right angle right here, angle number 3. And I know that I have point R, and then I have line P right here, and line C right there. So this would be right angle P, R, and C. So let me write that right over here. Right angle. I apologize, forgot the letters for a moment. P, R, and C. And that's where I'm getting that from. Right angle P, R, and C. You can write it out as right angle P, R, and C. You can also write it out as right angle, meaning this is the angle symbol, P, R, C. Sometimes I change it up and I forget to explain that, so I apologize. It can be, either way, it will be correct. So don't worry about, oh, I put the symbol for angle, I didn't write it out. Unless you're writing a sentence, it doesn't really matter if it's just asking you to name it. So don't worry about that. Okay, now we're going down to number 15, name an acute angle. Now again, I'm going to come back over here And I'm going to be looking for what two lines are really close together that definitely look smaller than a right angle. And I remembered earlier that I said angles 2 and 4, these lines look really far apart and it looks much bigger than this right angle over here. So I'm going to say these are obtuse angles or big angles, large angles. Now, small angles or acute angles, I'm going to look for lines that are close together. And for angles number 1 and 3, these lines look really close together. And I'm really noticing it a little more for angle number 1 right here. So this is the angle I'm going to actually decide to name. But remember, I can't really name it number 1 because I named it that myself to help myself understand it. It's not really what it's named. I put that down myself. So you can't write down angle number 1 because the test didn't give you that. The paper didn't give you that. You gave yourself that information to help you understand it a bit. I also can't name it angle B because remember, point B creates 4 angles. So unless we come up here where that point really only makes 1 angle, we can't do that. So I need to look at the 2 lines that come together to make two lines that come together that make angle number 1 possible. So I see point B's in the middle, then I see point J over here, I see point A over there. So this would be angle JBA. And I know this is acute, so I'm writing acute angle JBA. Perfect. So I completed all of the work up here, minus number 7, 8, and 9. Students should feel fairly confident with doing the rest of the work on their own. I do apologize again for how long this took to record. Again, it's just my first time really trying to see my phone's capacity, and I wanted to get this out to you guys as soon as possible. So I do apologize. I'm going to continue to talk to the technology team for the Troy City School District, make sure I'm doing things properly, and just confirm that I'm doing things properly, see if there's anything I can fix, things like that. But I really hope this helps. Students, I miss you guys. I love you guys. Continue to work hard. Use all of the aids that you need to. And also, don't forget, Google right now is your friend. Don't Google the answers, but you have questions, message me, or you can also just kind of Google it. So don't worry about that. Use all the resources you need to, but make sure you're doing the work yourself. I'll be back to you tomorrow with lesson 10.2.